Dozens of employees of the New York City Housing Authority, one of the largest landlords in the entire country, were arrested by police for bribery. I'm Tony. This is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of New York. Now, this is a different sort of article because it's kind of a crime issue and a corruption issue, and it kind of goes over one of the problems I have with, public housing and, socialist systems, and that's corruption, okay? What we see people who are in charge of the systems, they seem to figure out ways to make additional money. They just, this is supposed to be something to help the poor, helpless people. And what this turns into is a government kickback scheme by these employees. So in New York City Housing Authority, which is, I believe it is the largest public housing authority in the entire country, right? They had dozens of employees that were involved in this scheme, and they were just taking bribes from contractors. And, it's hard to believe that this sort of thing is still going on, especially at such a large scale. But hey, the feds had to step in there and shut it down, okay? But this goes to show you at the same time, right? They sit there and they talk about how bad the conditions are within this public housing, right? Well, that's because thousands, or if not millions of dollars was going to feed these companies that were charging outrageous costs because they were giving kickbacks to the employees. So, the money that could have been used to help restore units was being used instead to bribe government officials. What a joke, okay? This is awful, but you know what? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised one bit, okay? This sort of corruption is very, very common within a socialist system. Usually the people who work for the government are the only people who seem to be doing well in a socialist system. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Are you surprised that a public housing authority is corrupt? That is filled dozens. They arrested dozens for bribery. So that means the system itself is rotten to the core. You cannot tell me that it's not rotten to the core. If you have dozens, if it was one, maybe two people, that'd be different. But when you're arresting dozens of people within this system for bribery, you're telling me that the system itself is rotten to the core, that, the people who live within the system, you know what? They deserve better than that. Even though I don't believe in public housing, I don't believe everybody within the public housing is, they deserve to be, just taken advantage of like this. I don't believe the taxpayers deserve to be taken advantage of this. So I know people are sitting there, they're like, oh, well, this is New York's problem. This is New York's problem. But I want you to remember one important fact, right? The New York City Housing Authority, like all of the public housing authorities throughout the country, are funded by the federal government. What does that mean? That means that taxpayers from throughout the entire country are paying to run that housing authority so that those employees can get kickbacks, which is why they broke federal law, which is why the feds are the ones who arrested them. So anyway, let's get into this article. We'll go over the details. This article is coming from foxbusiness.com, and it says, dozens of New York City employees arrested in bribery case that cost U.S. taxpayers millions, prosecutors. Dozens of NYCHA managers allegedly raked in more than $2 million. Yeah, I believe it's probably a lot higher than that, okay? We don't even know the true scope yet, okay? This is what they found for right now. So we might see a lot more coming in the future, a lot more charges being pressed against more corrupt government officials. There's a reason I believe in small government, and this is the sort of thing that makes me think that, hey, maybe my way is the right way. Anyway, let's get into it. Federal and local authorities arrested dozens of employees in New York City's public housing agency in a series of morning raids Tuesday linked to a massive bribery and extortion plot, according to prosecutors. The raids, coordinated by Homeland Security Investigations and the city's Department of Investigation, netted the most single-day bribery arrests in the history of the Justice Department, according to Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. In all, 70 people were arrested in 6 states. 70 people Okay? This is a large scale problem. You know what? I don't even know, like, if this was organized, like if this was like an organized group of people who were all just trying to steal as much money as possible, or if this was just, hey, you do this on your own, but this is just seen as being okay. I mean, it had to be organized, because what other way could you have so many people involved in this sort of scam, Anyway, as we allege, the 70 defendants charged today allegedly demanded over $2 million in bribe money from contractors in exchange for giving out over $13 million of work, he said at a news briefing. And if the contractors didn't pay up, the defendants didn't give them work. According to court documents, an unnamed co-conspirator allegedly texted another to ask how much of a bribe she should demand. $1K per cool? 1,000. Wow. So if you're getting $1,000 for each time you call up a contractor for work, like, the contractors are probably fighting, because the housing authority has literally over 1 million units within New York City. I believe they have over 1 million units, right? So yeah, it's a lot of money to be made by these contractors. So yeah, they're going to maybe give the people who are in charge of hiring a contractor a little bit of a kickback if they know they can get the work. So yeah, I mean, this is old school corruption stuff right here. No problem, babe, as long as you're being blessed, Angela Williams, a 64-year-old suspect who is not related to the U.S. attorney, allegedly replied. The New York City Housing Authority, or NYCHA, is the country's largest public housing system and takes in more than $1.5 billion in federal funding every year, according to the DOJ. As a public entity, it is required to bid contracts for most repairs or construction work and go with the lowest bidder. But there is an exemption for essential projects, such as plumbing emergencies or broken windows, that cost under $10,000. Management at each building was allowed to make no-bid deals for those jobs. So that's how they're getting around it, okay? For emergencies, they have the right to go in there without, going through the regular bidding process for that kind of contract work under $10,000, right? So, as an example, for me personally as a landlord, I let my property manager make decisions for emergency work without consulting me if the dollar amount is under $300, right? And then anything over that, they have to contact me, and then I have to give them approval. Well, it's kind of similar with them, where they have to go through this whole bidding process if the amount's over $10,000. But if it's under $10,000, which the grand majority of the work they're doing is going to be under that amount, especially when we're talking about repairs and maintenance, okay? But if you're doing a major construction project, it's going to be a lot more than that. So, I'm sure that what they were doing was they were trying to, basically make everything fall under that amount so that they could get the most kickbacks possible. I hate that this sort of thing happens, but it seems like it's inevitable. It's inevitable because you leave it open to corruption. And, when you have a system like this where it's not the people's own money that they're spending, okay? When it's me and I'm out there and I'm, doing repairs on my units because I am a for-profit business, right? Well, I'm going to find the lowest cost contractors possible. I'm not going to pay the contractor any kind of kickbacks, but what the contractor will do is, if I use the same contractor over and over, they might give me a slight discount on the cost of services because they know I'm a good, steady customer. But, that's completely different than this sort of thing here. Instead, these people, they're taking a paycheck from the city and they're accepting kickbacks. They're probably not paying taxes on those kickbacks. These people are just leeches. They're leeching off of the taxpayers of not just New York City, but of the entire country, okay? $1.5 billion is their budget for this New York City Housing Authority that they get from the feds, right? And so, yeah, we all are paying so that these scumbags can scam, Now, in my opinion, the solution to this, how do we take care of this problem? We take the public out of this, we eliminate the public housing. Okay, we put this back in the hands of private landlords. Simply put, I've read so many stories about how the buildings in the New York City Housing Authority and most housing authorities are falling apart. The maintenance costs are increasing exponentially, and it's going to continue to be a problem where they have to keep feeding more and more money into it. This is the problem with a socialist system. You have people paying far below market rents, and the rents that they are paying don't even cover the maintenance. Not only that, but I was reading an article about how even with the far below market rents, there's a huge percentage of the tenants within the system who don't pay any rent. They just refuse to pay, yet the housing authority will not evict them because I guess they feel sorry for them. I don't know. But whatever the case is, they have a huge amount of rent that they don't receive, and they got, all these bills. So there's only one way for them to even cover the maintenance costs, and that is to suck more money out of the taxpayer. So you wonder why your taxes are so high up in New York. It's because of this sort of nonsense where you're basically, if you're one of the taxpayers, you are paying so other people can live for free or live for an extreme discount. This is why I don't like this whole socialist system. Eventually, you're going to run out of other people's money, okay? You're going to run out of other people's money. People are going to get fed up. They're going to get sick of you sitting there, paying way, way below market rents while they're paying their full market rent and super high taxes on top of that, okay? And they're going to go somewhere else where they don't have to pay that, or they're going to shut the entire system down and you're going to end up on the streets. So that's what I would like to see personally. I'd like to see people sink or swim, okay? Let the market dictate how much the rents are going to be, not the government. The government shouldn't be in the landlord business, okay? We're feeding corruption. We're feeding waste. Government is nothing but waste. Even if the system was working absolutely perfectly and these people weren't bribing, and taking advantage of their position, then it would still be wasteful. It would still be way more wasteful than if private companies were operating those buildings. So anyway, I'll leave a link to the article in the description down below. Put in the comments what you think of this whole situation.